Welcome to Licensed Psychologist Now What? A podcast about the journey psychologists and psychotherapists go through as they reclaim their intuition and unleash their healing gifts while maneuvering getting licensed, life, and making a living. And although this podcast host and many of the guests are mental health professionals, the information provided is not meant to be a substitute for being diagnosed and treated by a licensed mental health, medical, and related professionals, or for supervision and/or consultation purposes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Licensed Psychologist Now What? This is your host, Dr. Lidiana Garcia, and today we're going to have the second part of Reconnecting with your soul's desires and gifts. So last time we were talking about in general about things that get in the way. Today we're going to start talking a little bit about exploring it a little bit further, but also creating a plan of releasing those things, or at least finding a way to softening those, because it's so important that your gifts are shown in this world. We need you. We need all of you healers. We're going through so much. I am reflecting a lot about the implications of the whole pandemic in our bodies, in our society. And even if you're not at the moment at capacity to provide so much help in that realm, just know that this is going to take us several more years to heal or to at least get to a better place. Right now, the mental state is so fragile, and perhaps maybe yours. I know sometimes for me, that's why in many ways I had to take back a little bit of doing that work and move in a different way, because it was not sustainable for me or for my family if I kept doing mostly trauma work, especially right now as I'm struggling myself. But we still need you. So there's ways that you can find out what gifts can you show and bring to the table, and how can you bring them. Maybe it's not working full time. Maybe it's shifting or charging more or finding a different work, something else. So let's begin. I know I started already giving some recommendations. To begin, one of the things is doing an assessment. Doing an assessment on where you are in that journey of feeling comfortable with your gifts and medicinas. So I'm going to ask some statements. If you follow along with the guide that you'll find the link here as well, the PDF that has the guide. Then we're in I'll tell you right now, page number 5. If you have that, but if you don't have that, don't worry. You can download it later. Just listen to me and see what comes up. So in general, the question would be, how true are the following statements? And you're going to go from no, kind of, or yes. If you want to use a Likert scale, 1 to 3, 3 being yes, no being 1, and 2 in the middle. Okay, so how true is it? You know your gifts and your medicinas. Do you know your gifts and medicinas? Your gifts and medicinas are needed in the world right now. How true is that? You are reclaiming your gifts and medicinas. How true is that? You are ready to bring forth your gifts and medicinas. How true is that? You have the confidence to use your gifts and bring your medicinas. How true is that? So then there is a point, that I have, if you score whatever higher than a number, then proceed. But in general, we're all going to proceed together to the next stage, which is more about what is the plan? Because regardless if it's really high, it's still good to kind of create a plan for it. So as we do that, one of the first questions, and before I proceed, this episode, it can also be last one that you pause it. And because right now I'm going to ask some questions that are good for journaling prompt or just reflective questions. So feel free to pause me in the audio and then hit back play after you reflect on it, after you write about it and all of that. Okay? So let's begin. The first question is to define your gifts and your medicinas. And I know this question can be very broad. Something that could help with that is maybe think about when you were a kid. What were some of your interests growing up? What were some of the things that you were into that you could do for a long time, that you really did your like quote unquote research on it. It's sometimes that now as a mom with a 6-year old and I'm starting to see what my kid is really into, it's really fascinating to see how much interest they have in certain things and how they're learning to find information or how they come excited to when they learn something new. So maybe explore that. What were you really into growing up? What were the things that come naturally to you that people would go to you and ask for help? That's another way of exploring your gifts and your medicinas. If you had well and supportive parents or caregivers, then also reflecting about any compliments that they did to you or anyone, any other adult in your life growing up that made any compliments for you. And I'm not talking about ironic compliments because I know that can happen a lot in some families and they take things and they twist it. I'm talking in general, like well intended compliments. If you went to school, you can also think of what other people, like what grades, what was the subject that you did the best, or sports or arts. But hopefully you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here in terms of how to explore those. Okay, question number 2. Explore how you can bring these medicinas and gifts into your current life. How can you bring them in your profession, in your family, and in your community? Number 3, create a regulation plan to help overcome the doubts and fears. Integrate sensory items. I love using those as a way to regulate. Attending or reaching out to a community, and whatever has worked for you to feel regulated and at ease. That is so, so important. Also, you can check in the notes for the link for the PDF for self-regulation plan if that's going to be helpful as you create that again or revisit it. Number 4, create a plan for challenging yourself when self-doubt, imposter syndrome, or other internalized oppression beliefs come forth. So who can you contact when you're like in your mind of, I cannot do this? What affirmations can you say if they're helpful? If not, then don't do it. What movements can you do? You'll be surprised how dancing and sometimes even like, without any, it's not a choreography or anything, but just dancing, freeing in your kitchen, in your living room, wherever you are, in your car, singing out loud, so music to listen to can be so freeing, especially when you are struggling with self-doubt and those kind of stuff. What to see or read? Is there any specific account in social media that whenever you see it, like lifts your spirit? So have that, create that plan because that's going to happen. Here's the thing. When you're up leveling and you're overcoming the difficulties that probably were internalized oppression and many other things, there's going to be moments that the system is going to pull you back to what they know, even if it was not the best, even if it sucked, because being back to what you know feels known, and whatever feels known can signal a little bit of safety. Like even if it's not even safety to be there, like it's a dangerous situation, but your body has kind of integrated that a little bit as, oh, I know how to handle this. I know how to be in chaos. I know how to be without money. I know how, all those things, whatever you've known what to do, that's what becomes quote unquote safe for us. So that's why it's important to create a plan to challenge yourself because your body's going to want to bring you back to your older selves and to those parts that are struggling with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, internalized oppression, etc., etc. Number 5, if there need to be some changes in your professional life, explore what support and resources can help you bring your medicinas and gifts forward. This is so important. I don't rely on myself, and I also don't like putting the whole burden on a community or a specific person for that as well. I like to look for like mentors. I changed my schedule in my prior practice. I changed the schedule in my offerings as well to kind of be in alignment with my season of life. One example of that is I'm no longer at the moment doing anything on Saturdays, like trainings or in the evenings, because I have kids. If I don't have a babysitter or someone to take care of them, I am not doing that. It's so much. Even if my husband is here and he's the father, technically is not a babysitter, but it's still, I feel like we're like so burnt out because of the pandemic that I prefer somebody else, either my child to be in school or the actual babysitter to be here. So for me to do this, because I feel way more at peace when that is happening. Like right now, as I'm recording this, the babysitter is still here, even though I'm recording this in the early evening, if you want to call that. So that's basically the questions for next episode. I know these are shorter episodes, but they're intended for you to pause and reflect and all that. But for next episodes, we're going to talk more about if you were struggling with your medicinas, then different ideas and practices to help you explore them, connect with them, and technically remember and reclaim them. That's next episode, part 3, following, next week. So hopefully this was helpful. And as a reminder, we're still in open enrollment for Rooted and Rising, a coaching program for psychotherapists and healers that are ready and to jumpstart their journey of becoming who they came here for in a way that honors their current state and season of life, and also in a way that feels like reclaiming their truth and their power to then rise up. So if this is resonating with you and you're interested, the program will start on March 1st, 2022, and will end in June, like the end of June 2022. So if the timing is right, if it feels like a yes body response, even though then fear can come up or feeling anxious about it or nervous, then look at the link here and below and read more about it. But if you're like ready to just apply, also the link to apply is down here below. I'm looking forward to meet the souls and meet those that are joining this next cohort. And like always, it's an honor. And I feel so blessed to be able to do this work and to see everybody else that gets rooted and rise up. We'll do it together. So thank you so much for your time, for listening. And until next week with the practices to help you reclaim and remember those gifts and medicinas. Bye. Thanks for listening. Licensed Psychologist Now What? To make sure you don't miss any episode, make sure to subscribe via your favorite podcast player and to join our email list via our website. Lastly, I will appreciate if you would rate and review our podcast to help us reach more folks that can benefit from the information provided here. Until next time, bye-bye.